Hey, watch what you're doing. Shh, pass me the Phillips head. Don't like that. You need the ratchet. Here. I can't do anything with your hand in the way. It's stuck. Give me that thing. Here. Ouch! Hey, watch it. Shh. Be quiet, man. If you bang like that, your mom's gonna wonder what we're doing. If this thing works, everyone's gonna wonder what we're doing. There. I think that's it. Yeah. Switch on the computer. Ready? Here goes.
From the director of Gremlins, Explorers, coming this summer from Paramount Pictures. The adventure begins in your own backyard.
Welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. I'm your host, Kevin. This week we'll be discussing the 1985 adventure classic, Explorers, starring River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke, other people. It's an all-star cast, what can I tell you? Those of you guys joining us for the first time, first of all, thank you. Tell a friend. B Movie Club is a show where each week we'll discuss some forgotten classic from the past, some guilty pleasure, definitely nothing that was a huge hit when it came out or has a huge following, but probably nothing so totally obscure that no one's ever heard of it. At least I try not to. We'll talk about it on the show. I usually ask for suggestions on our Facebook page. You can reach me at Original B Movie Club on Facebook. Also, don't forget to like that page. There's a little thumbs up button. Click it and you'll get all the latest updates about what we're doing. Also, you can reach us on YouTube, KD9575, my initials and my birthday. Don't forget to subscribe, and you'll also get updates whenever I post a new video. Don't forget you can reach me on Twitter at KD9575. Just another way, another avenue to reach me, open the lines of communication. This is very important. So yeah, this week, 1985, Explorers. In this movie, young Ben, played by Ethan Hawke. He's a science fiction guy who's really into it. He's watching science fiction movies, reading science fiction books, and he just dreams of, I guess, being an astronaut one day. In fact, his dreams go so far as he's dreaming of like a circuit board in his brain. And his buddy Wolfgang, played by River Phoenix, who's kind of like this super intelligent, nerdy type, he's able to take the guy's dreams of the circuit boards and create something that initially creates a force field. And from that, they're able to create their own spaceship. Eventually, they learn how to, by adding something to the circuit board, create like an oxygen-producing thing. It's all very complicated. As a child of 10 years old when this movie came out, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Now, as a grown man at 37, I'm like, look at this, a circuit board that creates oxygen. Interesting. Anyway, they also meet up and team up with kind of a kid from the wrong side of the tracks, comes from a bad home, a broken home. But they all become friends, and they all build a spaceship using a tilt-a-whirl seat, some trash can lids, an old television set. What can I tell you? They put it all together. They hook in Wolfgang's computer, which is an Apple IIe. So all it takes to build a force field is an Apple IIe. In case you missed it, that's very important. So they build the ship, but strange forces are controlling the ship, and it tries to take them out into outer space. So initially, they're very concerned. They don't allow that to happen. Manage to come back to Earth, but then they start having more dreams again. So they get back on the ship after being a little reticent, as you might imagine, and they allow the forces beyond their control to take over their ship and take them out into outer space. At that point, they meet these strange alien creatures who appear to be friendly. I don't want to give away the entire plot, but evidently all these aliens know about human culture is from old television shows, old movies. So that's important. That's very important to be aware of. What can I say about this movie? It was the feature film debut of Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix. They hadn't done anything prior to this. Actually, River Phoenix had done some television, but this was his first movie. They were joking because River Phoenix's family basically had spent the last however many years in South America, basically living on the street, that he missed out on a lot of popular culture. So there were a lot of scripted lines using well-known slang of the period that he had trouble pronouncing or understanding or giving the right inflection. So they all enjoyed that. Again, River Phoenix, as we know, went on to bigger and better things. Ethan Hawke also went on to other things. The other kid, not so much. The kid from the wrong side of the tracks. What are you going to do? The girl who plays Ethan Hawke's love interest, like her name's Laurie, you know, they have the same class. Really not important to the plot, but she's there, and you know, he's yearning for her, I guess, as a 12-year-old is prone to do. You might recognize her. Her name's Amanda Peterson. She was also the central love interest in Can't Buy Me Love. So there you go. See, it all comes together. This movie was directed by Joe Dante, who directed B Movie Club favorite, The Howling. He also did Gremlins. And if you're looking really closely, in this movie there's a scene where somebody's looking at a newspaper, and one of the headlines is like, questions are still around for the Kingston Falls riots. Kingston Falls was the setting of Gremlins. So they're talking about, I guess, Gremlins. So there you go. So there you have it. Explorers, what else can I tell you about it? It's funny, they were still in the editing process of this movie, and frankly still shooting it, when the studio called Joe Dante and basically said, look, we've got a big buzz on this movie, we just need to get it out. So it was actually never entirely completed. This was still kind of a rough cut. So what can I tell you? What's interesting is when the movie came out, not a big hit. Not a big hit. Again, now we look back on the stars that were in this movie, and we're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But at the time, it was kind of kind of fell under the radar, if you will. But over the years, again, kind of a cult following. People who enjoyed Joe Dante's work appreciated this movie, even though it's kind of silly. It's kind of a childish kind of adventure film. Kind of, as you might imagine, bends the rules of physics a little bit, but that's okay. Hey, when your main characters are like 12 years old, a little bit of that is acceptable, I guess, right? But, like I said, it developed a cult following years later, especially as Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix became more famous and more successful. People kind of went back and rediscovered Explorers. So, on Rotten Tomatoes, it gave it a 78% fresh, which means it's pretty good. If you haven't seen it in a while, I recommend checking it out. It's fun. It has a little bit of the science fiction. Again, there are some parts, especially when they start meeting the aliens, that get a little goofy, but that's okay. For me especially, it kind of harkens back to a time, when I was younger. And in case you missed it, a lot of the movies I pick are from the 80s, from my youth, and they typically have a soft spot in I have a soft spot in my heart for a lot of these films, Explorers included. B-movie subscriber Steven actually recommended this movie. Thank you, Steven. Appreciate that. Good choice. It is still streaming instantly on Netflix, so if you haven't watched it yet, rush out, check it out. If you happen to have a copy of Explorers on VHS, pop it into your VCR, check it out. It's not too late. Send me your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, anything else that you enjoyed about the movie, any questions you have about the movie. My crack staff will unearth the hidden truths about this film. Next week, I'm going to a different kind of movie. It's kind of science fiction, but it's mainly a horror comedy called Slither. It's from the 2000s. So, see, there's been a few movies like Pootie Tang was from the 2000s. Slither is definitely from the 2000s. I'm trying to get a little closer to our era for our younger viewers. Slither, it is streaming instantly on Netflix. It has Nathan Fillion, Jenna Fisher is in it in a small role, Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker. It's an all-star cast. Again, it is streaming instantly on Netflix, so check that out. Send any favorite scenes, any favorite quotes, whatever you want to say, shoot it out to me. I'd love to hear what you have to say. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is. It took me 4 episodes of Lassie before I could figure out why that little hairy kid never spoke.